Which is the longest dungeon in Tears of the Kingdom? We've covered Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and now it's time for the final game in this mini-series, Tears of the Kingdom. The poll wasn't quite as one-sided as the Breath of the Wild poll, but still 60% of you think that the Lightning Temple is the longest. In a separate poll, I asked about this game's Spirit Temple and whether or not you guys believe that it's a full or mini dungeon, because it is a really tricky one to kind of time, and it was perhaps the most controversial poll that I've done, and just over half of you believe that it's a mini dungeon. However, I would agree with this comment, and I will be including the Spirit Temple in this video by timing all 4 depots in the Construct Factory, walking to the Spirit Temple, as well as the actual Spirit Temple boss itself. I agree that by doing this, it does make it a full dungeon, and probably Nintendo's intention. I'll also be including not only both visits for Beneath Hyrule Castle, but Hyrule Castle itself. It's much easier to time Hyrule Castle in this game because it's actually required for the story. Just like in Breath of the Wild, the 4 main dungeons can be played in any order, and some dungeons may take a shorter amount of time depending on which ones you've already completed due to the stage's abilities. For this video, I'll be starting with the Wind Temple, then the Fire Temple, then the Water Temple, and then the Lightning Temple. The sage's abilities play less of an influence in this game as opposed to the champion's abilities in Breath of the Wild, so the time shouldn't vary much depending on the order you complete them. Once again, I will not be counting the amount of mandatory rooms since most dungeons in this game are wide open spaces like Breath of the Wild, but I will be counting the amount of floors since most dungeons in this game have traditional dungeon floors again. Let's go. Here are the rules. The timer starts the moment I enter the dungeon and stops the second the boss is defeated. I will be grabbing optional chests if I know they're valuable because they don't really waste too much time in this game. And once again, the dungeon map is required to begin the dungeon. No glitches and no sequence breaks, just straightforward runs with solid game knowledge. I won't be unlocking the gates in any specific order either. And once again, I'll be skipping cutscenes because I really want to measure the raw dungeon times. I finally got a Switch too, so I'll be playing the upgraded version, but the time should be identical with the original Switch version with just slightly faster loading times here. Before we dive in, drop your predictions in the comments and we'll see who gets it right. Let's dive into the opening dungeon, Beneath Hyrule Castle. Okay, so I actually forgot to record footage of this first phase of the dungeon on my Switch too, so this is actually my original Switch footage, but thankfully this won't take long at all. It's basically just an opening with lots of dialogue and a very linear path. Kinda creepy though. These keys are mandatory though. Just make your way to the right and down the linear hall. And after clicking OK, I'm going to stop the time here, giving us an incomplete time of 1 minute and 47 seconds. This isn't it, guys. We'll be back much later for the full dungeon time and a full analysis, so stay tuned. Okay, I'm going to start the timer the second I enter these doors. So basically, once again, just make your way to the marker, but we don't have Rivali's Gale this time, but we still have the most overpowered ability here. Like, holy crap, I love this thing. So once you're up, we don't really have to reach the floating Hyrule Castle bit right now, thank God. Just to the first gatehouse where we can use Ascend and talk to Haz at the top, giving us an incomplete time of 1 minute and 24 seconds. Once again, guys, we'll be back much later with the full time and analysis, so stay tuned, this isn't the end. Okay, now for our first actual full dungeon. And that had to be one of the best build-ups in the entire series. Here, if you open the door, you can grab an opal. Otherwise, just grab an icicle and attach it to the other door handle so we can use Ultra Hand. Not like that. Also, this guy is so damn annoying, bro. Good, once inside, we can activate the first lock. Bro, come on. That's just such a time waster right there. Now, I'm going to make my way to the left side of the ship, and if we jump down, we can enter the first basement, almost blocked by these icicles. Ignore the chest and use recall on the windmill type thing to bring us to the other side. Get rid of this idiot, and if we shoot the icicle down and attach to the door handle, we can open it for a shortcut just in case. Now use the icicle to connect the gears and allow the one on the right to move, which opens the door for the next lock. I'm just going to ascend my way out. And if we move to the opposite side of the ship, we can enter an easier door to the other side. And I'm going to grab this chest for a rupee. Oh, I screwed up, damn it. Oh, After getting across, use Ascend on the platform above and you'll see a hidden chest for a nice weapon here. Attach 2 of these pieces to the broken fan and then use Tulin to move the fan, opening the door. You don't need to attach more than 2 of these pieces for the fan to move, which does save some time for us here. Climb up the ladder and activate the 3rd lock. Use the central wind geyser to make your way to the top of the dungeon where we can open the door and jump down. The 4th fan is in the opening at the bottom. I actually have no idea what happens if you hit these lasers because it actually never happened to me. But I don't want to find out in this video. I don't want to find out. Okay, the last one is probably the hardest one to get, so ascend up and out. It's actually at the bottom of the ship. If you jump down and use Tulin's Wind at the right time, you can... Holy crap, that was close. Oh my god. Okay, so you can climb to the opening in the 2nd basement where this last fan lies. Bro, how did that not activate it? Okay, there we go. Now just make your way to the center of the dungeon, easy with Ascend, and then activate the hatch for a very cinematic boss fight. This guy is actually a lot of fun to fight here. For his first phase, just wait for him to release his spikes and then dive into his purple weak points. It's the exact same process for his middle and back end. You could also use arrows to attack when he dives up, which is actually much quicker. It's the same idea for the 2nd phase, except this time you need to avoid the tornadoes. For the last 2 weak points, I actually just use arrows in 1 quick attempt, and this gives us a final time of 13 minutes and 40 seconds. The Wind Temple had a total of 1 floor and 2 basements. The combat difficulty is actually higher than I expected, with many enemies being a one-shot due to it being the first dungeon I've attempted. The boss is very straightforward though and can be taken out much faster with the use of arrows. The central mechanic revolves around activating 5 turbines using Tulin's Wind, but the puzzles are not very difficult. The hardest part of the dungeon is simply not falling down below. Ultra Hand and Recall are used pretty creatively though. One of the only time sinks of this dungeon is probably the bottom basement fan since it's the most difficult to reach. This is a dungeon that actually feels larger than it actually is and emphasizes exploration and spectacle more than its complexity. Alright, now for a dungeon that can be completely cheesed by climbing instead of actually using the intended minecarts, which will save me a bit of time in this playthrough, but I actually thought that this was a stronger dungeon in this game. Just look at the design. So to the right, we can jump across the first lava pit and then use the newly created platforms from the hydrants to make it across the next lava pit. We can use a minecart here to make it across the railway, but make sure to hit the switch to the left to change the railway direction. For ease, I'm just gonna have to kill this idiot. Grab a hydrant from behind and then use it to create a bridge for Yunobo to smash the boulder ahead. Clearly, it doesn't have to be pretty. Use Yunobo again to hit the first lock. Head to where we picked up the hydrant and flip the switch so the minecart isn't blocked. Now follow the railway, being sure to hit the boulder in the process. Be sure to kill this guy too. I was really lucky that he didn't hit me here. You'll reach a dead end, and if you just go back and this time hit the switch ahead to change the railway direction again, you'll be fine. At the end, move to the left and hit the switch, which will bring the railway down. Now make it across. Destroy the boulder ahead and then fuse together a bridge using the above hydrant to make it across. Recall works very nicely here. Defeat or ignore this guy and activate the 2nd lock. Okay, this is where I'm gonna start to cheese it. Move past the lava again and this time use the railway on the left to get across. Go back across, but this time hit the switch on the right to raise the railway, which I completely missed. But that's not a problem because it's still raised on the other side. The 3rd floor is a bit more open and we just want to worry about these railways here. Grab a cart and place it on the right railway. Now grab a rocket and attach it to the cart to allow us to make it across the gap in the middle of the railway. Holy hell, that was close. Oh my god. Run straight ahead and create a bridge here, and now use Yunobo to move up the wall, destroying a boulder and releasing a block in which we can just use recall on the block to bring ourselves to the 5th floor and to the 3rd lock. These last 2 are the most annoying ones to get though. Here I'm just gonna say screw the carts and let's just glide to where the last 2 are. Here I got so lost trying to find the terminal door and wasted about 2 minutes. But after a fair bit of climbing, we finally reached where it was. Except I was at the other side of the lava here. This one is probably the most annoying one, but basically use Yunobo to destroy another boulder which releases a hydrant. Now what we want to do is build the biggest bridge that we're ever going to build, and this is where it can get very annoying because you have to place it so Yunobo can hit the switch above, but thankfully it didn't take too long here. Smooth. The last one is right behind us, so grab the bridge and okay, it's not long enough. Once you make it long enough, you want to once again create a bridge so Yunobo can destroy the boulder. We just passed the time of the Wind Temple. This is the most annoying part, bro, because this isn't a smooth bridge at all and clearly is having trouble making it. Man, that was close. Okay, let's add another one to make it smoother. Bro! Okay, somehow that worked, but that wasn't smooth at all. That's not really what you're supposed to do. That was just luck right there. They don't ask how though. Now run across the bridge and jump down. Now hit the switch to open the door and finally get the final lock. The gate is just to the right, so activate it and let's take on the boss. Simply use Yunobo to destroy the boulder above, and this guy is actually a bit longer and more difficult than the previous boss. Basically destroy 2 of his legs and he'll fall down, giving us a window to attack his eye. The second he gets up and starts shaking is when you want to stop. It's a rinse and repeat here, and the second phase is a bit harder. This time he'll be on the ceiling and it's a bit harder to hit his legs, but once you do, just attack like normal. You'll also quickly surround you with boulders that explode, so be quick to destroy one to get away. Continue attacking like normal, and this gives us a final time of 19 minutes and 38 seconds. The Fire Temple had a total of 5 floors. It's a very vertical and large dungeon, whether you are riding the minecart rails or climbing. If you decide to complete the dungeon the way it's intended, most of your time is spent riding carts and backtracking when routing isn't perfect, which can take a bit of time to find the correct route. The combat difficulty isn't that high either, with most being constructs. The boss is a bit more difficult than the previous boss, but shouldn't give you much trouble either. The Fire Temple is a non-linear dungeon and maze-like and encourages experimentation, but it can also hurt time if you miss a rail connection. Even if you do cheese the dungeon, the terminals where you have to build a long bridge can be a time killer if it's not a smooth bridge for Yunobo. Overall, it's much of a step up from the Wind Temple, and its very large design can feel very intimidating. If you complete the entire dungeon just using the minecarts, this time would be a lot longer, of course. Okay, I just have to ask, why is this dungeon in the sky? Like, honestly, why is it in the sky? Anyways, this shouldn't take long at all. I love the low gravity effect of this dungeon though, let me just say that right off the bat. Anyways, I'm gonna go for this one down the broken staircase in basement 1, and if we actually use side and shield, we can get through these flames. Now we can grab the orb to the right, move it past the spikes, and then attach it to a hover stone. Bring it as high as you can, and then use ascend on the same hover stone, and now hop on the other hover stone and move the previous stone up and place the orb in the slot sideways with the hover stone. We have to use another stone to press down on the switch, allowing Sidon to pass through the flames. Our weight alone will not allow that. And this will allow us to activate the first valve. The next valve is up above the pond, so use ascend and move past each platform. Bro! Okay, never mind. These guys have to go. Grab the orb and use a splash fruit on the mud to allow bubbles to be formed, and then place the orb in a bubble. Now we wait for ours. Wait for the bubble to pop and have the orb drop right below the pedestal. Now raise the floodgate and the water will drain. Continue to hold and then use recall to keep it up, allowing us to activate the second valve if this guy hurries the hell up. The last 2 are on the far right, so here I just did some climbing with no issues. Use recall on a bubble ahead and it will bring us up to the next platform. Now attach 2 metal slabs on the windmill to allow it to spin, generating electricity. It doesn't have to be pretty at all. Grab a bubble and allow it to connect the power so we can activate the third valve. Climb your way to the rightmost platform now. Hop on the bubble maker below the spinning object and jump off of it, and then shoot a splash fruit on the mud covering the switch inside. Now shoot the switch inside, giving us access to the final valve. This was an always fun and creative puzzle here, I'll give it that. Make your way to the center to clear all the mud, giving us our next boss fight, and this is probably the hardest and most annoying boss yet. Basically use Sidon's ability to attack the shark and then attack Muktarok. He moves a lot, so arrows can help quite a bit here. Here, it was basically rinse and repeat, but the second phase is much more annoying. And now I didn't really worry about the sludge and just went straight for him. His worst attack is when he'll generate waves, which are impossible to dodge without Sidon's ability, so be careful when using it and hope that it's recharged for this. He'll also shoot a laser from his mouth, which is easy to dodge. Muktarok is a lot harder to hit since he jumps from each sludge, so now you try your best to nail him with an arrow and then basically rinse and repeat, giving us a final time of 11 minutes and 19 seconds. The water temple had a total of 1 floor and 1 basement. It is the shortest feeling dungeon that's extremely compact and puzzle-light, that's built around the low gravity movement. The combat difficulty is a bit higher than the previous dungeons, with more constructs and a harder boss fight, especially the second phase, which is sure to add to the time, but once again, nothing extremely difficult, just annoying if anything. The puzzle difficulty is also low, and the low gravity allows for any missed jumps or falls to not be too punishing. It also allows for easy traversal between each platform. It's actually one of the most relaxing dungeons that I've played and the easiest water temple in the series. This is my favorite dungeon in the game and the most traditional dungeon-like. We can start by blowing the sandhill away with Tulin's ability, step on the switch and follow the linear hall, continue until you reach a wall with 2 blocks covering, and if you remove one, you can enter the room and grab a Gerudo Claymore and a Topaz if you please. Go left and continue running so the platform doesn't take you down. Whatever, I'll grab this. You can just run past these flames, or try to when you can, and step on the switch deactivating them, allowing Riju to pass and opening the door. To the left, use recall on the fireball and follow it up. Or not, what the hell? Okay, maybe don't use recall and use Ultra Hand. Oh my god, okay. Oh, thank God for this fairy. I totally forgot I had a fairy. Okay, it wasn't pretty, but step on another switch to deactivate the fireball and open the door. Continue down the path, and here I jump down for a Gerudo bow, run up the stairs and into the room of hopeful light. Take care of this guy to save the headache. You'll see an opening in the wall, and if we run through it, we can grab a mirror. Stack up 2 blocks and place the mirror on top and in the light so it activates the switch, opening the door. This will lead to the room of ascension and where we can actually begin this dungeon finally. Bro, come here. Why is she just standing there? The first battery is ahead, so just remove both blocks covering the room and then activate the first battery. Now move a block covering the geyser to allow us to reach the 5th floor. You'll see a gap above the 2 torches, and if you enter it, you'll reach the room of natural light. So grab a mirror and attach it to the block so it's directing light to the central room. Now we can move this statue so it directs light. Then move the second statue so it directs the light down, activating a switch for us. Jump all the way down, stepping on the switch, and we'll enter the room of offered light, which is probably the most annoying battery to get. Take care of the 2 constructs with arrows, and hopefully the sages will take care of the rest. We now want to make a hot air balloon with a mirror attached to it, and it helps if the mirror is facing the right friggin' way. Okay, it was facing the right way until the stupid thing moved. Okay, one more time. I am not sure what I did there. There we go. Okay, perfect. We just passed the time of the water temple. Back in the central room, make your way to the 5th floor again, and this time move the 2 statues away from the light, and then move the 3rd statue that's covered by sand to the light, and then the 4th one, which will direct light up and to the next switch. This one can be hard to reach, and I messed up a few times with ascend here, but just climb your way up instead. Here, just jump all the way down past the flames and into the room of light and flame. We just passed the time of the Wind Temple. Here you can defeat or ignore these guys, but I'm not taking any chances, and I'm at least getting rid of the one with the bow. Okay, never mind. No, I'm not. Ride the geyser once again and make your way to the platform with a single torch. Use recall to get through the spinning blades and then move the 2 slabs to reveal a light source. This will open the next door once the spinning blades move away, and another switch again. Step on it and place a block against the crushing wall. Step on a switch to deactivate it. Connect the 2 slabs high to stop the next trap. Grab a mirror in the room of light and shade and jump down into the light source. This may seem a bit more complicated than it actually is, but basically the switch will be behind this moving wall somewhere. So once you find it, you just have to keep holding it to the switch, and you should be able to get it if you time it correctly. I'm gonna kill this guy for his mirror shield though. What a mirror shield we have in this game. Finally, use it to activate the final switch and battery. Activate the portal and you'll be brought to the room of glorious light. Hit the main hive in the center for a battle with Queen Gibdo. This is such a good fight and is the hardest so far. Continue to hit it with Riju's lightning until it's stunned. We just passed the time of the Fire Temple. The tornadoes are one shot but are easy to avoid. She'll also charge at you, so be ready to avoid that as well. The second phase is much harder and chaotic. What I like to do before anything though is destroy all 4 hives because it'll make the battle so much easier. Do this while avoiding her laser attack and all the redeads, which can be very tough. There we go. Now we can just focus on her and the battle is much easier. Attack like normal, and this will give us a final time of 24 minutes and 28 seconds. The Lightning Temple had by far the largest amount of floors thus far with 7 and 1 basement. Before you can even begin the dungeon, there's about a 5-minute trip to the Room of Ascension, and after that, I knew that this would be the longest one so far. It is the most traditional Zelda-style dungeon in Tears of the Kingdom, with multiple floors and a strong sense of progression. It had the highest puzzle difficulty so far, and the central mechanic revolves around redirecting light beams, using mirrors, and involved multi-step planning to activate the terminals. The combat difficulty was also the highest, with many difficult constructs getting in the way of terminals, and the hardest, most time-consuming boss thus far. It is the most linear dungeon in the game by a long shot until you reach the Room of Ascension, and simply feels the longest due to that initial hike to that room. And we are back. I've decided to start the timer again after teleporting to this shrine since it's the only warp point to the floating portion of Hyrule Castle. Anyways, making your way to the marker isn't difficult, so make your way there defeating or avoiding the moblins. Once you reach the second gatehouse, you are met with the black boss bokoblin and a couple black bokoblins. It should be a breeze at this point and took less than a minute to kill. Grab any weapons and continue to the next marker, which I just teleported to the shrine for ease. The next one is located in B3, so jump down and fight Hinox and 3 elemental jellies. Again, shouldn't be difficult at this point in the game. Move up the stairs into the hall ahead where we are faced with few Gibdos. Here, I just ascend out of here. Bro, enough! Here, I clearly got lost trying to find the next one, and the hardest part about this dungeon, guys, is actually trying to find each marker location, and it's not necessarily the enemies that make this dungeon hard. But if you go up the stairs where the Lizalfos are hanging out and use ascend to the first floor, then jump down, you are faced with a few fire Lizalfos, which are easily taken care of with ice weapons. The next marker is by far the hardest one to find, but basically jump down to where you see the Lizalfos are hanging out and you'll see a lone black moblin and an entrance further down. This is where we face a silver Lizalfo and a couple ice keys. We just passed the time of the water temple. The final marker is right by the ice lake and down the hall to the right. Here, take care of 3 very annoying electric lakes. We just passed the time of the wind temple. Finally, make your way to the sanctum for the boss fight. This is the hardest boss, but also the most fun boss so far. There are 5 Phantom Ganons to take care of, and once you've played this game enough, the attacks are very easy to dodge. But for first timers, the boss will be very time consuming. Sometimes other Phantom Ganons will leave the sages they're fighting and try to fight you, so you really have to be on your guard and careful here. Like, that was close. After all are defeated, the second phase is much harder. First, hit the main gloom spreading Ganon so he doesn't spread anymore, and then fight the same as before. Only this time they can switch weapons and require different ways of dodging for each weapon. Whenever each one is killed, another one does try to spread gloom, so continue to just stun them with arrows when they do that. Keep at it in another very chaotic boss fight, and this gives us a total Hyrule Castle time of 18 minutes and 4 seconds. The first brief visit to Hyrule Castle is very irrelevant and it's just a basic hike to the first gatehouse with no real dungeon aspects. The second visit was the actual dungeon of Hyrule Castle and had a total of 1 floor and 3 basements. It's a dungeon that's basically a gauntlet challenge with checkpoints serving as new enemies to fight. The hardest and most consuming aspect of this dungeon isn't necessarily the combat. Although Phantom Ganon is a time killer, it's actually trying to find each marker, and getting lost was a time waster, especially in my playthrough here. Okay, so we can go to any depot first, but I guess this one is the closest, so here we go. All right, the left leg depot. The first thing we do with these depots is to release the body part, which begins the puzzle. This one is very simple. Just bring it up from the platform and then move the bridge down enough to allow for a part to clear the wall. Attach a rocket and cross your fingers, but this shouldn't be too difficult. It might take a couple tries though. Now just grab it and bring it to Minoru. She's right in front of us for this one, but the other ones aren't so simple. Once it's in front, it should break out of this box. But it's not. Like, why isn't this working? Bro, why isn't this working? Come on, why isn't this work? Am I doing something wrong here? Oh my god, what a waste of time. Okay, what the hell was that? That was such a waste of time right there. I have no idea what just happened there. It really should just break automatically the second you put it in front of her. I don't know what I did wrong there. Okay, the next one I'm grabbing is to the right, and it's much more of a hike, and it's so dark that I'm going to use this. Perfect. So if we just run up the spine, we can actually just glide to the door. This is the right leg depot. After grabbing it, use a platform to go up. So this puzzle can be easily cheesed. Just hold it up as high as you can to the platform and then just use ascend to get up. And now just recall it, grab it, and leave, saving so much time in the process. Bring it up again, and here we want to grab a wing glider with the steering stick at the top here. Now just build the wing and place it above the box and then glide it to Minoru. I'm going to go to the upper left one now. The path isn't as difficult, but it has a lot of gloom and a boss bokoblin, so be careful here. This is the right arm depot and probably the most annoying part of the dungeon. What you have to do here is attach wheels onto it to have it drive itself across the electric block to the other side, and you have to angle them right too. It took me about 2 minutes to get this right, but the final product looked like this, which worked like a charm. Sometimes I have to cheese it though and just make it so I can run to the other side and then just kind of use recall to grab it, but this time it actually worked perfectly. Now, I'm not going to build anything extra, and I'm just going to carry it down to Minoru since she's not really far at all. We just passed the time of the water temple. Now for the left arm depot and a much easier puzzle. Getting there is also much easier. We just passed the time of the wind temple. Open the door and place the steering stick on the box. Now grab 2 wheels from the door and then control the box across the lava. Cool, huh? But we're not done yet, and this time we want to attach the wheels to the horizontal ends of the box and control it past the lava again. Now just keep the door open with recall and bring the box in. What I tried to do here was once again control it back to Minoru, but it didn't work out well here. Okay, I guess this works. Why not? We just passed the time of Hyrule Castle. Okay, now the next part of this dungeon is actually getting to the Spirit Temple, and is actually time consuming if you don't have any upgraded energy cells like me, but just make your way through the intended path and the enemies will avoid you for the most part. It does get pretty dark though. We just passed the time of the Fire Temple. No one has even touched me yet. Even if these moblins try, they won't even catch up, guys. I'm going to attach some weapons here, and these horriblins are probably the most annoying part here, and they can actually hit us, so either defeat them or try to ignore them like I did here, but it is risky. I'm going to activate this light route since it's only going to take about 10 seconds, and I really do need hearts. And now we have a Hinox, which is also extremely easy to avoid, and he mostly just goes after the sages. You'll reach an area with tons of bombable boulders, but we can avoid those also by climbing through the left side and then jumping down. The last enemy we will see is a boss bokoblin, which can also be avoided. We just passed the time of the Lightning Temple. Finally, attach a rocket to Minoru's back and then use it to be introduced to the Spirit Temple. Walk inside, and after a brief cutscene, we can fight the boss. To start, just allow him to attack and then use your shield to hit him into the ropes. Here, he will fire 2 cannons, which are easy to avoid if you just walk the opposite way. Guard again, and then once again hit him into the ropes. Another dangerous move is his shock emitters, which are one-shot, so keep your distance for this one. Rinse and repeat with your attacks and on to the second phase. Here he'll fly up and a simple rocket should work, then attack as normal. Rinse and repeat with your cannons, and this gives us a final time of 29 minutes and 56 seconds. The Spirit Temple and Construct Factory didn't have a map like the previous dungeons, so there wasn't a specified amount of floors other than the 1 floor. The dungeon is split between the Construct Factory, which consists of 4 puzzle rooms, and the Spirit Temple, which is the boss fight. Most of your time in this dungeon is spent in the 4 depots in the Construct Factory, especially the right arm depot since that one had the hardest puzzle. The combat difficulty is high with many high danger enemies in your way to the depots, as well as the path to the Spirit Temple. The boss can give you a run for your money as well, but is more of an emphasis on positioning. The puzzle difficulty is moderate, with the Construct Factory testing your understanding of Ultra Hand, Recall, Ascend, and Zonai devices. Each body part segment is essentially a self-contained puzzle room with environmental challenges, and sloppy construction can cost you time. It doesn't feel like a traditional dungeon at all, but it's more of a multi-part engineering challenge with the combat finale here. A lot of time was lost in this playthrough due to a non-upgraded battery, so I expect a much better time if that weren't the case. And once again, We are back, this time for the final dungeon. Just fly past all the electric lights and down below. Now climb up and defeat or avoid the Horriblin. He can be very annoying, as you can see though. This next area we have a freaking line on the bottom, and what I did here maybe wasn't the smartest, but I did fly to the left and instead I climbed up the gloom infused vine. Again, not my smartest decision, but I'm feeling confident with these upcoming fights. Now just glide to the top. Ignore some more frost lights, but they can be very annoying with the keys too. Jump all the way down and through the room to the north, which we can't use the sages anymore. Just look at that timing though. Here I jumped on another gloom vine and quickly used ascend, but that was close. I am too overconfident. I'm gonna eat something here. Run straight down the linear path and into the Forgotten Foundation, and this place looks familiar, right? Continue through the linear path and bomb the blocks at the dead end. Take a right and bomb the blocks of the area where we were in at the beginning of the game. Continue through the linear path again and jump down into the imprisoning chamber. In the Gloom's lair, run down the path and jump down. That is so cool. The next part is quite the gauntlet. First, we need to take care of all the bokoblins, including a boss bokoblin. This should give you no trouble, especially with the Master Sword and all your sages fighting for you as well. Next is a gauntlet of Lizalfos. A bit more difficult, but didn't give me much trouble either. Now we have some Gibdos, so stick to Riju and they will be easily disposed of as well. The last phase are the moblins, and once again shouldn't be difficult. The whole battle took me around 4.5 minutes. Afterwards, run through for my favorite boss fight in the entire series. Ganondorf's first phase is the exact same as his Phantom Ganon counterparts when it comes to dodging, so it shouldn't give you much of an issue. If you attempt to hit him early, then he will try to dodge, in which you will need to flurry rush his ass back. Oh, he's got a spear now. We just passed the time of the water temple. I always felt that the spear is much easier to deal with than his club though. His second phase is much more chaotic, but only focus on the one main Ganondorf and the rest of the sages will continue to join in. Some might try to attack you before they join in, so be very careful here. When he powers up his club, just use the wind to avoid everything. Damn, that was close. We just passed the time of the Wind Temple. His third phase is even more fun and probably the most difficult as well. You will continue to dodge your flurry rushes, in which you have to dodge once more and finally hit him with a second flurry rush. It's simple if you've learned his attacks, but damn, this took me forever on my first try. Damn, that's annoying. Okay, back to his sword. Bro, I hate this attack. Holy crap. There we go. Okay, his last phase is the easiest and most cinematic fight in this series, and I just love it so much. Basically, you want to attack his 4 spots on his back, and that's really it. He won't hit you guys, trust me. We just passed the time of Hyrule Castle, and if you fall off, she will catch you, but it does get close, and I do sweat a bit here. We just passed the time of the Fire Temple. It's a bit time consuming not only to fly to each one, but to run on his back too. For his final attack, just land on his head and break the tier. Hit him with the final attack and this will give us a final time of 22 minutes and 35 seconds. Once again, there was no map for this dungeon and no specified number of floors, so it's treated as one here. It's a dungeon with a deep descent through the depths with multiple combat arenas and a lengthy final boss. The combat difficulty is the highest we've covered, with some of the toughest enemies throughout the journey to Gloom's lair, with a large battle even before the tough final boss. Resource management here becomes so critical due to the Gloom damage and limited healing options, so if you aren't prepared or didn't cook enough Gloom recovery food, you could be in for a tough time. The puzzle difficulty is low with no puzzles and mostly linear progression. The challenge comes from survival and not really problem solving. This is a linear, escalating, and oppressive dungeon that's designed as a final trial rather than your traditional Zelda dungeon. Here is a total comparison in order of each dungeon's length and Tears of the Kingdom. So looking at this, there's absolutely no pattern with any of the data here and with the dungeon order that I've chosen. And this is the order from shortest to longest, indicating the Water Temple being the shortest and the Construct Factory / Spirit Temple being the longest. Nothing much to take away from that at all as well. And if we compare the amount of dungeon floors for each, including the basements, we can see just how much of an outlier the Lightning Temple was with 8, and Beneath Hyrule Castle and the Spirit Temple both having the lowest with 1. Again, no clear pattern here as well. The total dungeon time was 2 hours, 19 minutes, and 40 seconds, and for a roughly 9-hour playthrough, that's around 26% of the game spent in the dungeons, which is absolutely nothing, but not surprising given the type of Zelda game that it is. On average, each dungeon took 19 minutes and 57 seconds to complete, and if we compare every 3D Zelda game that we've covered, it is the game with the second shortest average dungeon length besides Breath of the Wild. Again, no surprises here, considering it's a game that's more focused on open world and exploration. Honestly, guys, there's no surprises for me at all. This is a list that you can probably predict before even attempting the playthroughs, just like Breath of the Wild. Thank you guys so much again for watching. Let me know any comments or surprises about anything here. I'm not quite done with this mini series just yet, so stay tuned, take care, have a good day.